when element goes by, if it's enough to make the element veer off, it's going to have to pull us as to how much. We're not going to know because we don't know the size on it yet. But when it goes through September, the September date and I think an October date, I get so confused because they seem to change for me. That's the time we really have to watch. My ETs, and I'll share it with you guys, my ETs on my last channel, and I'm not here to predict. I'm really here to bring people information and Jesus' message about the big thing coming up next year between the countries. That's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to convince anybody I'm right. I'm sharing the information. I'm purely a messenger, no agenda. Whether people agree with it or not, take it or use it or lose it. It's up to you, but that's my job.
That's what I always say.
It's really taken off. On one of our past interviews here, we had 6,400 listeners, which was really amazing. We were really pleased, and then we got news the next day that we had, I think it was 34 or 37, I can't remember, 37,000 downloads in a week. So it's really taken off. So I'm going to have to look at that. And the people that know me, they know I'm not here in here for any big agenda of any kind at all. I'm just doing my message. And I'm a regular guy. I'm a rancher, and there's no money in ranching, not the kind I do with horses. And I'll tell you, I don't have the money for a website right now. So, if anybody feels out there that they're part of this whole thing that's going on is to help somebody like me, then I'm open to that. You can approach me on that through Facebook or however.
Absolutely. Well, Glenn Kennedy might want to talk to you because, we get a lot of traffic on our websites. Our shows get spread around like wildfire, and we have a lot of listeners. So I can guarantee you after this show's over tonight, this show will be spread around all over the place. And I wouldn't doubt if you get a lot of feedback as well. And I appreciate you coming on and bringing this message. And a lot of times we have guests on who have books or this and that, and some of the skeptics will say, oh, they're just trying to sell their book. And, it's not like that. Even the guys who have books trying to put this information out, they're not getting rich off these books. They're simply trying to get back what they put into it, as is what we try to do here. I mean, we pay to run this show. We pay to, everything comes out of our pockets. So we don't have $1 million companies backing us up. So, we go on donations. We don't charge anybody for this information. And as well, I don't think it should be. If this information needs to get out there and people charge for someone might miss the show and they go back and then they find they have to pay $6, $7 to listen to a past show, I don't agree with that. So that's why we keep it free here. And I appreciate you getting this information out as well. Now, I want to talk about these earth changes. Do you think that, now these changes that are happening, is something causing this, or is this just a cycle the earth is going through? What do you get on that?
Well, a lot of the earth changes, Michael, are exactly what I've just described. That's the physical side of it. We also have technology that's coming out. I know you've heard of Tesla. I'm just starting to really get into this area myself. I'm learning a lot very quickly. The thing we're fighting right now, above anything, is ignorance. We have to start finding all these shows like this and all of the information sites out like Robert Mann. Robert Mann's got World Examiner News on Facebook, and his stuff is all proof before it even gets to a wall anywhere. He has a team of guys that go out and check it out. You guys get it out to all your listeners. Everybody has to start educating ourselves. We've been living in an unreal, world. Our reality has been a false one. And the sooner we catch up, the sooner we're going to be able to make the proper decisions. Some of the things I'm talking about are just really quickly, are the HARP weapon, used of altering weather patterns, directing storms against each other, even creating earthquakes. Some of these HARP activities are actually now, we're starting to realize, they're starting to affect the ocean life too. Like, if that beam ends up in the water, it's actually been, we believe that's what's causing it, is schools and schools of dolphins are coming up on shore absolutely with burn marks all over their body. And now these are burn marks that aren't caused by an acid sort of a thing, but more of like some kind of an electric current. So, the wildlife is suffering a bit like hell underneath us, We've really let the innocence of this world down, and And it's time for us to start, getting into our role as stewards of this earth. But what we can do create the stewardship, but the direction that we're always pushed and controlled in prevents that. And that's why the big companies always win out. That's why the big companies, the people that try to be stewards are called tree huggers and everything else. Well, they're the ones that are trying to stop everything being dissolved and destroyed around us for cash. And that goes right back, all of this goes back to the Illuminati, the guys that come in and clear cut, and they go to the Amazon and clear cut and don't replant, that do strip mining and, just all this stuff. So now, we have weapons that are coming in now to create weather patterns and change and stuff like that. If you don't mind, because I don't know our time tonight, but I would at some point like to, because there's a lot of new listeners every time, and I'd like to go.
We've got a couple hours to go, Jeffrey, so but feel free to go ahead and whatever you were going to just get out there, by all means, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to touch on the core of what I do. The core of what I do is that vision, the visions I was given with the visitation by Jesus in '99. And that is basically, some things have passed, so I won't touch on those, but everything that he showed me is come true, including 911. I predicted that within 2 days. And for those wondering, yes, it was an inside job. Of course it was, the Illuminati. But what's coming up now that we really have to watch, and it's building. We did some research on it just yesterday with Robert Mann, and we're bringing up the news articles that are actually confirming it's going into place. And that's that Jesus showed me is that China next year in 2012 will launch 4 nuclear missiles. And they'll be sent towards NATO countries, and the countries he showed me was the United States, Canada, the UK, and Australia. Now, if some of that will make sense as well when you start to think about, without getting too far off, but we have Area 51 in Nevada, but there's also a thing I've noticed lately through Robert Mann's site is Pine Gap, and that's in Central Australia. That's a co-country cooperation, let's call it, between the USA. They built a big Area 51 there in conjunction with the Australians. This is also where Australia's HARP weapon is going to be situated, or is situated. The one in Alaska is another HARP for the United States. Now, Russia and China are getting really nervous because if you look at it on a globe, as Robert showed me, those are 2 really strategic points on the top and the bottom of the earth, as we call the top and the bottom. So Russia is going to launch against the four major NATO countries. Now, just to precede that a little bit, the exact scenario I was shown was, and right now China is beefing up Pakistan with like 50 jets of this kind, 50 jets of that kind, missiles, all this kind of thing. They're also cozying up really close to Iran right now. Iran wants nothing better for Iran to be the country that starts their holy war that brings the world to a total destruction. I've seen Ahmadinejad actually speak on that on TV, so I know it's coming from his mouth. So the scenario as I was shown is that Iran will launch an attack against Israel. And when that happens, that's a cue for Pakistan to attack India next door. Now, when this all happens, the U.S. and the NATO will come in to respond to that. As soon as that happens, then China is using that action and that response to justify their attack against the NATO countries. They've also they're beefing up their machine that has been for a long time, their war machine. They've just launched their first aircraft carrier. And it's off Japan now, I think. But so when this happens, when they launch off, Jesus showed me that the USA, through their U.S. Air Force Subspace Department, which is now an advanced Star Wars, will take these missiles out over China. And when this happens, of course, it's going to be a huge, massive explosion of 4 nuclear missiles over China in their airspace. So this is going to affect them immediately. It's going to be, as I was shown, a total annihilation of China, most of India, if not all of India. And right there you have 1.5 or 7, I can't remember, in 2007 billion people in China, and then you have 1 billion people in India. So what's going to happen then at that point of action 1/3 of the world will perish. 1/3 of the world's population from that, and that actually will die at that time. Over the next 4 years, there will be a nuclear winter come in for 4 years. Now, there's another third in that time that will perish, and that's basically the third world countries that aren't making it now are not going to get through a nuclear winter, and we're not going to have the resources if we're going to get through to do that. That's just how it's going to be survival. So, and I have friends on board with me now that are helping me with the biblical side, have really studied it inside out, and different religions against each other, and comparison. And this third is in the Bible. Now, the third that is left, after 2016, the third that is left, they will not all be ascended, wonderful people. Some of those are going to be the ones that are coming up for the karma here. So probably one quarter of the entire world population in the end, in 2016 to 2018, in that time frame, are going to be, and this is what my ET guy brought in, because Jesus didn't show me that last 2 years. The ET brought that into me. And that there will be an ET intervention, evacuation of ascended souls that are going to what they called for me, so I can understand, it's Earth 2. Now, in one of our channels, they gave me an alphanumeric designation, which we looked up the next day on NASA, and we found it. And NASA describes it as a planet, basically within a reasonable distance from Earth, that could likely and may support life forms. So, for me to get an alphanumeric number that actually relates to a designation that's on NASA is amazing in the first place, but it's not the first time they've given me evidence like that. Now, of course, at the same time, in this whole period of time, geographically, there's another third that's brought in. Well, this is a separate third, not from the whole of the human population. This third is showing a 1/3 loss in the world's landmass over the next, from now to 2016. So we're looking at it, and this is what's going to be coming about. It is coming. It's not getting better. I was shown that Japan will crumble and collapse and things like Atlantis. Japan is a doomed country. The people already, and I'm not being cold, I'm being factual, because we have to look at the facts and not get overly wiped in this emotionally, because that's going to be our saving grace, is that I believe that we should be in there right now, the world's countries, if we really cared. Then there's nothing else getting the children off that place. We're not doing that.
Absolutely. And, you know Japan, it seems like they're going under quick. With that major earthquake they had, the nuclear facilities burning up on them, and they just seem like every day they're having earthquake after earthquake after earthquake, and some say that they're going to sink right in the ocean.
Yeah, and there's no evacuation. There's no evacuation. They had a 6.2 and a 6.6 today, off Honshu, the same place that wiped out their nuclear facility, which is still leaking. You know, they have. I mean, they're courageous. They have the older Japanese people are showing up there and are being used to do whatever they can to try and stabilize it, which is pretty much hopeless now. And these people are showing up and giving their lives because they're saying, we're old, we're going to die anyway. So they're actually in there doing this, just like that helicopter pilot did with Chernobyl. You know, I mean, he gave his life to just drop that cement down the tube. And these people in Japan are doing the same thing, but you know what? It's scary because we're not doing anything to help.
That's right.
And right now, the Earth is being saturated with radiation, and guess what? It's hitting us, folks. You just don't see it and feel it. But
you better believe it. You know, we tell people all the time, just because Fox News says you should go out and shower and it's safe, that's not the case. That we are being hit. This is affecting the entire world. And, you know, a lot of people, it don't affect me. Yes, it does. It's getting in your food. It's getting in your milk. It's getting in all that stuff. And it's in the rain. You know, so this is bad. And there's going to be a lot more of that. You know, if we have a solar flare from the sun and all the power went out today, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah. Well, this I've been telling everybody as well, Michael. I'm trying to get them prepared. You know, there's a lot of things that are happening, too, just to flip back again. A lot of it is natural flexibility of the crust right now, but these HARP weapons, they're using them to create stuff, you know, to create, because if you start to really watch, you're going to see a lot of the places that are really at risk for the big quakes, except, of course, for Southeast Asia, which is a whole different story. But sorry, there's a lot of nuclear facilities near these places that are getting hit. Now, my concern, I'm really wanting, you know, I reach a lot more people. I understand that by doing the radio interviews, like 43,000 downloads. And I will always use the radio, but I also need to get out there so people see a face to the voice. And I need to speak in places like L.A. and the big cities, because you know what? You look at L.A. and the population there. Earthquake is bad enough, but now think about this. We've had so many warnings with Fukushima and what's happened there. We nearly had another problem on the East Coast recently, and even that's not that solid stable right now. They're just not showing us. Now, France is having a problem right now with one of their reactors, and yet we still are pumping and cranking ours. And folks in L.A., you have a facility north of your city and south of your city. You're between a rock and a hard place. So, you know, it's not just a matter of getting out of town, which is going to be tough enough in a really severe shape. Like, I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing, what I've been getting, and I've been getting it lately, and it's the first time I've seen it. And I've actually said this, is I'm seeing an 8.8 to an 8.9 that's coming for L.A. Now, that's the first time I've ever put that out on the air. But this is the number I'm getting constantly. And I'm telling you, it's not far off. My vision with Jesus also showed me Baja, which is insane right now, is absolutely going to split and break off, just like Vancouver Island did up near Seattle. Seattle is facing another scenario, and it's increasing there. But when Baja splits, the vision was amazing, and maybe this is part of the visions I had I told you about that were downloaded. I saw like 200-foot high walls of water rushing in at me. And that's what you'd be looking at if what Jesus showed me happens. He showed Baja splitting, breaking off, and everything going up the valley into California, quite high up, splitting wide open, the ocean rushing in, and actually getting to Nevada. Now, this Edgar Casey saw something similar, but a little different geographic. But it's the same kind of thing I was shown, and if you look at Nevada on the USGS site, and click onto the state, you'll see all these red lines all over the entire state. It's the only state that has it like that. These are all small fissure lines in the crust. It's a weak crust in Nevada. So you get the weight of ocean water rushing in, it's going to collapse to whatever degree and create enough depth to give you another ocean. And this is what's coming there. I mean, and I'm not trying to, and I don't enjoy being Mr. Doom and Gloom. But when Jesus came to me, he gave me this message. He gave me this message, and I got to say it, because if I don't wake people up to it, it's a huge disservice. I mean, FEMA's idea of taking care of you folks is to get millions and millions of plastic of plastic coffins and stockpile them over in Mississippi, wherever. I'm telling you, it's for the other line over there. I mean, forget it. I mean, the big risk population-wise in the whole United States is L.A. And down in Southern California, it's choked with people. You know, they bought all of these meals. Now, all these meals they bought, I'm a little concerned there because they spend over $1 billion worth of emergency meals. But, you know, all that sound we're hearing, you hear people saying there's like droning sound on different sides of the country. Well, you know, they're boring under the earth, you know, because they're making these little getaway spots. But I'm wondering, you know, I don't think those getaway spots for us. But you know what? All those prisons in the desert are for the people that are going to be homeless, and all the gang members are going to be picked up because they're going to go and raise hell all over that part of the world with no control. That's what the deserts are for. But you know what? I wouldn't count on getting anything off FEMA except for plastic coffins. I think a lot of that food that's been ordered is up on the ground already. See what they're doing?
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, they'll keep trying to take us out. But you know what? I agree with you there. You know, these coffins, they're preparing for something. Between the meals, the coffins, they know. They've got all these underground bunkers and tunnels that they're making in these underground cities and so on. And now I even heard that they want to make some floating cities. I don't know if they're going to have time to do something like that, but that's something I heard. And with these earth changes, you know, we talk about the droughts, the heat waves, the earthquakes, the floods. a lot of farmland has been taken out. And one of my theories behind this is they're using this HAARP to control the masses by controlling the food. They're wiping the food out. They're more or less saying you're going to use our GMO seeds. You're going to have no choice.
Yeah, exactly. But the food that they're, like the countries all over the world, they've taken away the native seed banks and destroyed them. And like India, they actually talked India into destroying their own seed bank of the native seeds. And then the GMO stuff came in. And what happened was that the very first year they had a crop up, everything failed. These special super seeds are failing left, right, and center. Well, that's not an accident. You know what? You have to go back to the number game. The numbers is that the Illuminati controls us. The smaller crowd is easier to control on the planet than a larger crowd. Now we're starting to. Everybody's rallying, as the whole world is on the brink of a revolution, and they know this. So you know what? When you get a whole bunch of people that could take it, here they go again. Here they go. When you got billions of people around the world that are fed up and basically want to do a Tale of Two Cities French Revolution and lop heads off. They're worried about this. So what they do is now the countries that have the power to do all this, they'll go into a big nuclear freaking war. They'll go into a third world war, and they'll decimate 2/3 of the Earth's population, because at the end of that, they're going to crawl out of the holes in the ground and try and take over what's left. And with great technology, they probably can do a lot of repair. But you know what? You have to remember, these grays and these hybrids don't have anywhere else to go. They're not going home to God. We are. They're not. So in the end, it's going to be... Are you there?
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Oh, my phone just went dead and came back again.
Oh.
So,
yeah, they're working hard, aren't they?
Oh, they try, but it just gives me more confirmation as to my information. Not that I need it, but it just adds it. So a lot of this stuff is coming down the pipe, and it's really sad, because you know what, the people in LA, just the way it is, they need to be setting stuff up, not in the desert and prisons. They need to be setting up facilities up in the mountains. They need to start giving somewhere. Setting something up where, if it happened, if you had to walk or crawl to get there, you had a destination to go to. There's going to be millions and millions of people trapped. They're probably suffering instant radiation because of the two nuclear facilities. Because you know what? It's more important to keep the money cranking off those. Somebody said the other day that there's a way apparently that these guys can actually create gold through the process of creating through the nuclear fusion. Which is a whole other way of thinking about what they're doing there too. But you know what? We're dispensable. Life means nothing to these guys, to these power people. Because I always said it and wondered, well, why do they want to still concentrate on making money and making the wealth and farming us and all this stuff when it's going to be so poisoned that it's not going to be any good to anybody? Well, that's working with our in-the-box thinking, is that the Greys very likely have enough technology to begin repairing it. If we get to be unmanageable, a farmer has too many chickens and it becomes too unmanageable, he goes out and slaughters them, and then it gets down to a manageable flock and starts again. And we have to start thinking and realizing that we're a crop. Humanity is a crop. And it's not just with what we make in going out and doing jobs that we think there's an honest effort. They even make us ill. They make us sick. And then they sell us the stuff that makes us feel a bit better while we still continue to die. And, I know people that have died from cancer. They're not being heartless, but I'm going to tell you right now, how peed off do you think people on this earth are going to be when they find out people didn't have to die from cancer because there was natural cures out there, which they went out to Amazon and destroyed. It's their formulas, and and they don't like me. I know, I'm telling it like it is, and they don't like me. I know they're watching me close.
Oh, yeah, believe me, they don't like me either. You might not have realized it, but I just got zapped and knocked off of here, but I got back on before it was noticeable. So, yeah, they're attacking us left and right tonight. And I got to be honest, we haven't had that many problems in a while. So they're definitely after us tonight. I'm going to take a quick break here, Jeffrey, and we come back. I'm going to take some phone calls as well. I've got more questions, of course, and if it comes down to it, would you be willing to do an extra half hour tonight in case we decide to go over a little bit? All right, great. All right, thank you very much, Jeffrey. So you heard it, everybody. When we get close to the end here, you're going to want to call in at 858-683-1309 and continue listening. I'm Michael Vera. This is Late Night in the Midlands. We'll get to your calls after this break, so hang in there with us. We've been asked several times, what do you mean by you cover everything?
You know, a privilege to be on your program because where else can I face things like this, that we have to face up to reality that, for example, the UFO phenomenon is a real phenomenon, no question about it. So anybody who debunks the UFO phenomenon itself don't know what he or she's talking about.
What is going on here? I think that there's something going on here that is man-made, that is causing this, combined with a possible pole shift as well, which would be, fall in God's hands. But I believe God is allowing these man-made things to happen because, again, He wants us to make a choice.
And each time it comes around, and that's about every 3,600 and some years, each time it comes around, it comes at a different angle and a different distance from the Earth, so that there can, sometimes the passages are not nearly as severe, and sometimes they're more severe. And this one is being projected as being a very severe one because it's coming very close.
And if hidden planets isn't enough, how about hidden cures?
And it's so easy to cure cancer, as Dr. Caldwell will tell you.
So let me just get this clear. Now, if there is a cure for cancer, we can cure cancer. And
many of them. Many cures.
We have over 300 known natural cancer cures that do not have any side effects, and most of the time cure cancerous growth in 2 to 16 weeks.
We're Late Night in the Midlands. We've always been running with the shadow of the night. I love nighttime. It's my favorite time of the 24-hour period. It's quiet, it's just peaceful, and it's always been my time. I am a night owl. So Late Night in the Midlands on Radio N-Search, websites, latenightinthemidlands.com, project.nsearch.com. Get on over, become a member, and be informed. 858-683-1309 is the number to call in. You can also call in using Skype. Make sure you press 1 so we know you want to get on. So after you call in, you'll get an option to press 1 so the host knows that you're in queue. So make sure you do that if you want to get on. We're going to get to you in a second, Doc, so hang on there. Jeffrey, we had just talked a moment ago about China launching nuclear missiles. Now, aren't they concerned that missiles will be launched back, or do they not care?
No, because they're expecting the surprise on it all. They also have backup weaponry and devices to take out weapons. The U.S. isn't the only one with this kind of technology, and I think that's part of the purpose as well as this new aircraft carrier. It's the only aircraft carrier they have, but you can bet it is loaded to the hilt. They're also working with a lot of things too, like the waves that give out the blue beam. Okay, you can get into that if you want to. The blue beam program. I mean, we've seen recently on YouTube where they've shown people in China looking across the river at a city in the clouds and said, "It's so strange. There's never been a city there before." And another one showed where they were actually were looking at a huge bubble in the horizon that could cover an entire city. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's a mirage and this and that." It's actually blue beam. It's where they have the technology to project 3D holographic images. Now, a friend of mine, the guy, my right-hand man, with everything I do, Marty Dufresne, came up with something the other night. He was sitting outside, and he started thinking about the chemtrails because he was looking at them. And he came up with something that I actually ran it through Pastor Robert Mann, who's really into that, with his site, and Marty also put it out to the Louisiana State University, to the physics students there, and had them do a feasibility on it. Everybody came back with a positive. That the chemtrails are putting up aluminum. Now, I'm bad, okay? I'm still learning this, so bear with me, folks. But one of the things that are coming out in the chem sprays that we're noticing in the atmosphere is the aluminum. I think aluminum oxide. Somebody out there is calling it out of their skin because they know what I'm talking about. But it's aluminum. And what they're doing is they're spraying that into the atmosphere. Now, we've always thought, well, they're poisoning us and stuff like this. Really, what we're starting to get out of this now, Michael, is that it's actually kind of like if you put all these aluminum particles into the atmosphere and then send your HARP or the blue beam up and all that, and it excites the particles and it makes them move and all this kind of thing. So basically what we feel they're doing is creating a giant movie screen in the air. Think about it. All those tiny particles. And that's why they keep reseeding all the time, because they're coming with this blue beam program where they can actually project holographic images into the atmosphere. You need a backing for that. And that's what we're starting to think is that this is coming from. You know, so there's these theories. So there's different theories. Another theory, of course, is to help the HARP beams get to where they're going, because, you know, metal carries energy really well. So those are the two scenarios we're looking at. So, you know, you basically can, and this is what I want to bring in here, is, as I said earlier, we are not going to be invaded next year. We're going to have a lot of fly-throughs to bring in disclosure, but they want to believe that that this is an invasion. Now, they can even make it, this is where it gets scary, they can make it look like an invasion with nothing up there, because if they're putting out holographic images, and these things are actually firing and looking at graphs, if they can do that 3D holographic. Also, a lot of the countries now do have their own military-built UFOs. There's one on YouTube, and I saw it just a little while ago, and it was amazing. It was a UFO going between two mountains, and the guy was there on the spot, got this UFO going along, being escorted by two F-16 fighter jets. And he ran to the other side of the hill really quick and caught them as they were going away at a very low altitude. And these guys were flying. They were test flying this UFO and had an escort on it. That's us. You know, we have that technology because the Greys are here. So there's a ton of things that are coming into play, and it's going to add. The biggest challenge for people is going to have to be discerning it. Now, there's a lot of people out there that just love to put the fear in, and they're paid to do that. You know, even on my website, I had a stalker problem a while back that everybody knows about. And so I cut my friend list down in half, you know, just to get the stuff out that I'm not talking to, people I'm not talking to, and clean it up a bit. Right. But what I'm seeing now, because I have less people on there, I'm noticing more. And I think today I cut out 7 people and put them on block. Because these are people that are on my friend list that I've never added. So we're all being infiltrated. We're getting into...
Oh, yeah. We have that happen all the time. Myself and my colleague Glenn Kennedy, we'll go on there. I mean, I've had past guests who I'll always friend them on Facebook. And I believe you were on my friends list at one point, and I noticed you were off of it. So I had to go back to put you on. So yeah, this is an ongoing thing, and some people think I'm crazy. I go into this group, this coast-to-coast listeners group sometimes, and there's a few people in there who think it's crazy, and I'm telling them, well, you're obviously listening to the wrong information now, because this is happening. They're definitely, I think Facebook has, the CIA is definitely, that's one of their favorite tools, and yeah, they are doing that. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of things going on. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but I really want to mention this to show you exactly how serious it's getting out there as we're getting closer to basically D-Day here. Is that this guy Dutchins? Is that how you say Dutchins? And he has that site where he puts up some of the stuff about World Trade Center. We should get static any moment now. But the World Trade Center being a demolition job and these kind of things, This really should come under free speech in America, but a bunch of people ganged up on this guy and his site, and and just push it and push it. And now YouTube has taken a bunch of his videos off YouTube, and somebody somehow actually shut down his email as well. So he's taking a full bore attack right now, and it's really sad to see that they can get away with this online. The internet is really good, and it's an awesome tool, but don't think we own it. We don't.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I tell people all the time. You never know. So become members on the websites. And, I had my own stalker not too long ago as well. So believe me, it happens to us. Once we're getting truth out there, they don't like that. You're a researcher, you're a contactee, you've got great information you're bringing us. And me, I'm one of those people who will put the forum up for gentlemen like yourself to come on and do this. They don't like that, because you're not going to hear this stuff on Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh. And you're not going to hear it on Fox News. So, and now Obama has this new site. What is it called? Their Attack something. I forget what the heck the name of it is. Attackwatch.com. And, here's another. If you hear somebody's making attacks against Obama, report it here. We'll give you the truth on it. I mean, come on. These people haven't given us the truth since we started researching things on our own and not believing what the mainstream media has given us. So you're right. And if you don't mind, Jeffrey, I'd like to go to the phone lines. We've had Doc on the line holding on for about 23 minutes. So I'm going to bring him on with us, and then I'd like to talk some more about these future events and, speculation of bases on the moon and Mars. And I just want to say to everybody, when you see that big alien attack happening, don't pay no attention to it, because I really believe that it's going to be a staged thing, too. So, Doc, you are on Late Night in the Midlands. Thanks for waiting, buddy.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much for taking my call. I've listened to a few of your interviews recently to kind of prep for the show, to see what I was going to hear. I was wondering if you had any opinion about the Palladians, and there was a Dr. Vinod back in like 52, 53 that was contacted by these 9 entities claiming to be Palladians, I think, and that they were going to disseminate technology and information about the end of the Earth through some of the elites. Are you familiar with that story?
I'm not familiar with that at all, but first off, I go a lot with what I feel. I'm very intuitive, and also from my dealings with them for 7 years, is that it's really, for the technology side, from what I'm told, is they're not allowed to interfere at that level yet. And then it also kind of clashes with me when you say that it would be shared with the elites. The elites are the problem, and the Palladians know that the elites are the problem here. Because the elites basically are your gray human hybrids, and they've been implanted, as I said earlier, for centuries. So I myself can't put much into that, and I'm not calling.
Well, you're not going to get any argument from me.
Yeah. So to use Palladians and elites in the same breath is total opposites.
Right. Well, this was the American aristocracy, really, and they were. To me, it sounded pretty evil, pretty wicked. Pretty wicked stuff. In my mind, a lot of it had to do with depopulation and that sort of thing. I did have another question for you, though. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and you were talking about future calamity. And I was wondering what, if you were looking at a map of America, what are some of the safer areas to be located?
I've had people ask me that so many times. And it's a good question. It's a good question. I feel like I'm in a good place in Northern California, but I'm also sitting very close to Mount Shasta, which just had a 3.4 the other day. So, but God put me here, so I'm trusting that. There's some areas, of course, which are really bad, like LA and the West Coast. It will get more static now. The East, the problem on the East that I see is, believe it or not, is the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes already, from years back, have a base. They have a poisonous base, and that's from all of the years of the automobile trade and all this sort of stuff. I used to live for one summer on at the beach, actually, in the great cottage on the east side of Lake Huron, and every time there would be a huge storm, you know, and as you know, the Great Lakes put up storms that create like huge whitecaps, like the ocean.
Massive, yeah.
And the next day afterward, the very next day, the beaches would be lined with dead birds and dead fish, and nobody, it didn't bother anybody. I said, well, why is this happening? And they said, well, because there's this horrible sludge at the bottom of the Great Lakes from all the industry over the century here, and when the big storms come in, it actually agitates it. There's an algae that lives within that, and then the fish eat that, and then the diving birds eat the fish, and the next day we end up with all these dead bodies. But, you know, there's a little more to it, too. There's a lot of not radioactive, there's a lot of nuclear facilities in Kincardine, where I was at that time. They have the Bruce nuclear facility there, and I believe there's three facilities there. I could be wrong, but that's what I remember. They actually lectured there too, a lot of the people that work there, and when you walk down to Kincardine Pier and stand at the end, that's where the kids are all diving off into the water in the summer. It's a real summer spot. I'm not trying to kill the tourism, but I think we're beyond that anyway. But I look down at the end of the concrete pier, and there's a yellow amber-colored radioactive symbol there. So I asked the government when I went back and went into City Hall and I talked to them, I said, what's with the radioactive symbol at the end of your pier? And they said, well, because we have the facilities here, we have to put that there and put the no swimming sign on the concrete with the sign, because there may be a certain amount of radioactivity in the water there, but if it is, it's just kind of what drifts down from the plant. I'm thinking, well, nothing should be drifting down from the plant. So a lot of this stuff is going on with the Great Lakes and has been for a long time. Our water source is not as great as it is. I've always said that the good water should be siphoned off as much as they can and put into underground tanks. I've always believed that, into stainless steel tank compartments under the earth, and kind of skim the good water off while we have it. But of course, you know, that's just far too complex. But as for where you are, I think that is the greatest problem, and I think that a lot of what's going to go up in the air is going to come down in humidity, and we know that the east, Ohio, and the further east, especially Pennsylvania, places like that, I mean, it's horrible humidity there. I mean, it's like breathing water to me. And when you get a lot of this atmospheric stuff, even the radiation stuff right now, is actually, you know, I would believe is coming down semi-suspended, which makes your exposure even worse. So that's not, to me, that's not a good area. I would probably say the mountains. And part of the reason was the clue the other day, is that when Obama, they said Obama was rushed off to his bunker or something, it was near Denver. And, you know, if nothing else, blast-wise, the mountains are going to give you some sort of a deflection. And there's a lot of bunkers and underground facilities built in the Colorado mountains. So
you think that like the Rockies would be a good place to be?
I think so. You know, I can't see any earth shaking that's going to collapse the mountains to that degree. I think, and part of that I come to because of my vision with Jesus, that he showed me 1/3 of the landmass was going to disappear. So you can pretty much figure coastal places. The only place I know that's different from the coastal effect is going to be Nevada. So anytime that you can get above ground as much as you can, get altitude, to me is the best way.
I agree with that. Yeah, I'm a big preparer. Freeze-dried food. We store water, guns, ammo, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? It's a matter of survival. It's not about having guns and ammo to go out and kill people, but defending your family will likely come to a point.
Defending your food.
In LA.
Defending your food, sure.
Oh, everything. You
Definitely.
know, it's your family, it's your food, it's your survival. You're defending your right to life.
You know, and, hell, if I could make it through without squeezing the trigger or hurting anyone, I would. I don't think that's going to happen. But
I don't either.
You know, if you can make it through peacefully, go ahead. Now, you had mentioned seeing, you know, speaking with Jesus. do you see him as do you take the view of him as the Son of God, or Jehovah, supernatural God-man, or do you look at him as, say, an E.T. or extra-dimensional or some finite being?
Yeah, the second one. And that's what I covered earlier on here, is that we think of Jesus and God in the context that we've been educated to believe. We believe the church impression of it. You know, they fed the ignorance to us and kept us with only half information. And I explained it earlier in the show here, I believe, is that you know, everybody off the planet, including our souls, are extraterrestrial. You know, it's interesting because my ET contact, I said to him, you know, and when I say I said to him, my wife does a lot of my talking because they're coming through me, but is that we asked about God's name, and I said, I'm Jeff, my wife is her name, and so on and so on. I said, so how did God get his name? And he said, well, he said, God actually stands for geometry of design. So it's like the divine geometry that we hear about, geometry of design. So it's like Van Gogh being a painter. Instead of calling him Van Gogh, we call him painter or artist. So we're actually defining God in our description, so we put an identity to him as the person who designs everything, geometry of design. But the actual being, no, we don't know the actual being. Nobody here does. Even the church doesn't have a concept of God other than the ultimate creative being of all. You know, I mean, it's a description, but it's...
Well, I've honestly heard some very good descriptions of God. You know, I've heard very compelling descriptions of infinity and what God might be. So what are you know, you're hearing from these contacts, and what is your frame of reference as far as truth is concerned?
As to whether it's viable truth or not?
I guess that certainly, you know, I can give you some predictions and tell you what might happen in future events if I might have control over those, or if I might have some information. But I'm thinking more along the lines of like benevolence or malevolence.
Yeah, and that's a good question. Is that I told people is that I built up a 7-year relationship with my contact, and that's what I do. I base that on the same as anybody would. If you befriended somebody and you were your friend for 7 years, were did they ever have an off moment? Did they ever show a fit of rage? Did they ever tell you something that was a lie? All that sort of thing. Did you ever sense energy out of a new friend or a friend over 7 years that kind of belied what they were projecting to you? I've done all that to the best of my ability as a human, a spiritual being in a human situation. Everything that we get and do comes on confirmations, affirmations, and our gut feeling. Like people have said, well, how do you know that was Christ that came to you, and it wasn't some sort of a projection or an ET coming through? Well, you know, to me, Christ is extraterrestrial, so is God. So it doesn't lessen their divine situation. But it's like I tell people, that's the only thing you can do, is that when he came to me and filled me with the love that I felt spoke into me, it was immeasurable. It was like nothing you can ever describe or imagine. So I mean, I would just never, ever question what I was experiencing and what I felt, because I knew it from home. Also, I think it helped to prepare me a lot by having my 2 NDEs, because when he came to me in '99, I realized he was the being that was with me when I drowned when I was 18. So there's different things that have kind of built up the position I'm in, and sure, I think it all comes out under faith, and the physical side of what we deal with and the actual faith side have to come to a peaceful place with each other, and I have that with me. There's also been other things that I'll just cover real quick with the ET side.
Yeah, sure.
People are concerned is that they say, well, you know, have they ever proven anything to you, or you know, whatever? And on one occasion, when they were leaving from the channel with me, they said to my wife, "Your daughter is with child." and left with that. Now, her daughter had been trying to have a child for 8 years, and they didn't believe they could. And we had a call a week later that she was pregnant. Another time that when they left, they told my wife that the last 12 herd of buffalo were massacred in Southeast Texas, and they gave the exact year. I looked that up on the internet the next morning. It was exactly the same thing. So they give me evidence, and they have. So yeah, for myself, I've been trained to think analytically. I mean, I used to be highway patrol at one time. God forbid, but I used to be highway patrol.
Oh no, I'm talking to a cop.
So I once was. But I mean, I came out of that job.
Until now, you've lost it.
I came out of that job because of the UFO incident on the Alaska Highway. From that UFO incident, I quit the job, and that was concerning a U.S. military convoy with missiles going to Alaska. And because I left that job, 2 years later, I went back for a reference for another job, and I have the letter here, and I have my training documents here from the job, stating that that they have no records of me ever working for them. A year after that, somebody got in and absolutely wiped out my entire credit history, and the people at the credit bureau said that only the CIA or CSIS in Canada could do that. And a year after that, I used to have coffee with an American all summer in between my lectures, because I was lecturing back 2000 to 2004 on a limited basis. And my coffee was really bitter one day. I covered this in Camelot, on Camelot interview. And I fell off my bike on the way home outside of an ambulance depot, and I walked towards him because I had my knee cut up, and he said, "Oh, you need some help?" And I said, "Yeah." And I walked towards him about 5 steps, and it was lights out. I don't remember anything for 2 days, but 2 days later I woke up in the hospital. There's a nurse there. She said, "You've got, I think, global transient amnesia, and you have to write down everything that you remember, not from my life now, but from the last 2 days." I found that interesting. And your daughters are coming because we found your address book, and we contacted them because you didn't know who you were. So, and after you've talked to them, don't show it to anybody. You give it to us for the doctor's reference. Well, they didn't want anybody to see what I remembered for the last 2 days. But the interesting thing, and it still amazes me, is that when I woke up and I was talking to her there, I had the experience of not having a memory in my head. I was wiped clean. I mean, I looked around.
Yeah, I've been there before. I've been there.
Yeah, I looked around me, and it didn't register. That was the window. That was the door. That was the floor. That was the bed. It's absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it came.
Yeah, I've had someone ask me, "Do you know your name?" And I said, "Of course I know my name." And they said, "What is your name?" And I couldn't tell them. It was the strangest thing in the world. Yeah.
You definitely yourself for implants.
Now, when you make contact, do you do this at will, or is this something that you have to set up with your wife? And do they contact you when they want to, or is it either or?
Either or. It's just things that, like, sometimes if I'm going on a show and there's some things I want to clarify, I'll put that up there. What I do is I do a protection on myself, just like psychics do, kind of thing. I work against negative energy, negative ETs as well, and I take as many precautions as I can. Then I invite them in and say that I am ready for contact. Sometimes they come, and depending on their scenarios, and their timeline. But generally, a lot of it is that they come to me, and it's usually once a week, sometimes bi-weekly, but usually once a week. And even when I'm not contacting them, there's other ETs that are trying to get in my head at night, and that sounds really strange, but my wife, it drives her nuts because we share the same bed, but it's like, and I know I can hear it. I can hear different ET languages, and what's really but I don't open to them, so I have my safety in place. But when my ET contact comes through, and it's him all the time. Just recently, though, we've had this Arcturian come forward, who has been explained to me as Arcturians and Pleiadians are 2 of 7 nations that are bringing Earth into a proper place and doing the relocation to Earth too. And it's just funny because right now Hollywood has a movie coming out, Earth 2. So what they do is they come in first with a clicking sound. On some of my interviews, we've had the clicking sound on the recordings at the beginning and at the end of the interviews. the clicking sound comes in through me when I'm sleeping, and that kind of cues my wife. And we always keep the notepad and pen by the bed and a flashlight. And we've got 7 years of this. And then they come in, but they come in with not the clicking. Then they go into what I call a 2-syllable alien language, which is really interesting because I can hear it. So when I've been awake afterwards, I've tried to duplicate it. I can't get anywhere near it. But when they come through with those 2-syllable words, it's like so fast. I could never do it. And then it goes into English. Now, what's also interesting, I want to bring in here, is that nothing like design, drill into. I'm a rancher, you know. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I do have 4 scientists on my Facebook page now that I've joined recently. 3 from Washington D.C. and